Start today's session. So what we did in the last session is that we developed the Naive Bayesian algorithms, and we use this Bayesian theorem that to find the probability of hypothesis given some evidence X. So what we need is the first thing is the likelihood. So probability of X in H, that is probability of that evidence to come into that class. So that is our likelihood. And then probability of H. So that is a prior information of a particular class, and probability of X, that is evidence. So if you remember, so denominator part we have ignored, keeping in mind that for every calculation we have to divide by the same denominator. So what we were doing is we were maximizing a posteriori. So at that time, so we were maximizing a posteriori. So maximizing a posteriori means we are looking at for a particular class, so for which single most probable hypothesis that we were looking to make our prediction. So it is very easier than Bayesian. As we get more and more data, we keep getting closer to the Bayesian optimal. So even though because we are not considering this, so we are not we cannot say that it is actually the same Bayesian theorem, but naive Bayesian with maximizing a posteriori is very close to the Bayesian. And if you remember, we have also discussed about the maximum likelihood. So if we assume uniform prior, that if you assume that probability of H of all the classes are equal, so the numerator part, so one of the numerator part, so if it is equal for all the classes, still we can ignore it. So it can happen when there is no preferable hypothesis, or we do not have any information about the hypothesis, or your data set is so large that difference between these probability of H1 and H2 is very much negligible. So in that, you are only looking at one parameter in this. So that is only this parameter that you are looking. So this is what we did in the last class. So what we were doing is we were learning with the complete data. We were assuming that whatever we have to learn, so all the parameters, everything was given to us. So all the parameters for a probability model, everything is structure is fixed. So data is complete, and we were learning the model out of this. And the model that we can also say that as a maximum likelihood model. If you remember, so I also told you that rather than, if you have m examples, rather than multiplying the probability of m example, so we can take a log. So by taking log rather than multiplying the probabilities, we will end up summing up the log values. So that is much easier operation, and we needed to have a very high floating point precision value. So in that case, it would become a log likelihood. If you take log, so then it was a log likelihood. So with complete data, so the machine learning parameters, the maximum likelihood parameter learning problem, so that decomposes into a separate learning problem, one for each parameter. So we can learn for each of the parameter. And the significant problem with the maximum likelihood is, so we have to look for the zeros. So remember, we discussed that we will add one dummy value for a particular class, for that particular class if there is no value is given. And even for some particular attribute, if no value is given, we add one dummy value. So one particular code is added to avoid the zero problems. So this is one of the trick that we use. But in real life scenario, it is possible that you do not have the complete data. So what if you do not have the complete data? So if there are certain variables which are not available to you. So most of the real world problems, so everything is not observable. So there are many parameters which are not observable. So if a variable, let's say you want to predict a disease, and there are many variables for the patient. So let's say patients are telling you the symptoms, and from the symptoms, let's say S1, S2, and you want to predict about a disease. And the first patient says about 2 symptoms and do not say anything about the third symptom. Another patient says about only S2 and S3. So usually you might have seen that the doctor, even if you say a few symptoms, doctor is still able to predict the disease. So our model should be like that only, because humans are very good to predict something even if something is missing. But since in our naive Bayesian algorithm, we want everything to be complete. But in real life, so it is very difficult to have everything to be complete. So there might be some hidden variables. So we need to construct a model without these variables. So the hidden variables, so they can be dramatically represents a number of parameters required to specify Bayesian networks. So we will create a Bayesian network. We will see that whether some value is available or not. And we try to reduce if either by taking default value or by reducing the number of variables and the amount of data that is required for the learning. Now we will discuss one of the important algorithm, expectation maximization. So it is learning mixture of Gaussians. We will discuss today that how we would learn it. So it is also one of the important algorithm in the clustering problems. So when we discuss clustering, so this actually algorithm comes into the clustering part, but since we are developing it from naive Bayesian, that's why we are discussing it here only. So normally whenever you, if you knew each component generated from Xj, and we know about the mean value and the standard variation. So if we knew the parameters, we knew the class to which particular Xj or example belongs. If we do not know either, if we do not know any parameter, or if we do not know about mean and sigma value, then we have to develop a theory to get expectation maximization problems. So what we do is we pretend that we know the parameters. We know that the parameters. We don't know whether these are correct or not. And even then we try to infer the probability from that. So to understand that, let's take an example. Let's take an example that we want to predict the grade of a particular class. Let's say the grade can be A, B, or C. So there can be 3 grades. And let's say we do not have data about that, how from where the A grade starts and from where the B grade starts and from where the C grade starts. So in a complete, we should be aware that A start from, let's say 80 to 100, B start from 60 to 80, and C is less than 60. But let's say we do not know anything about that. So what we do is we assume certain distribution of A. Let's say we say that A lies around 85 and B lies around 65 and C lies around, let's say 50. So from where these values are coming? So these values are coming because we are assuming that these parameters. And not only this, first we discuss example with the single values and then we will generalize it. Now let's say you want to predict marks of a particular or the grade of a particular students. So having marks, let's say 75. So some student go to 75. Now you want to predict it. So you compare with each of these. So let's say this 75, now it is comparable. It is closer to 65 and 85, both equally closer. Then in your algorithm, you make a decision to whether to take it with a 65 or 85. So let's say to take it with 85, so put into this class. So first step of the algorithm is, so first step says that you compare with the mean values. So you compare with the mean values. What we are doing is we are comparing with the mean values of this. So these are the mean values of your classes. So these are the mu of each class. So first step is you compare with the mean value and a particular example which is closer to particular mean value, we add that into that example. Let's say now this would be added to this example. Now the A has now 2 values, 85 and 75. So its mean need to be changed. So its mean now will change to the new value, that is 80. So mean will be changed to new value, that is 80. So this is the second step. So second step is when you are changing the mean value. So you are changing the mean value. So first step is you are comparing with the mean values, and second step is once you add a particular element in a particular class, you change the mean value. Now let's again take an example. Let's say now you got another value 55. Again you compare with all the mean values. So with the 80, 65 and 50. If it is closer to 50, so as it appears, you add into it and change the mean value. So you keep on reading data from the examples. Let's say next example gives you 40. Again, you compare and add into a particular class and then change the mean value. So next 70, again, you compare with these, add into particular class and change the mean value. So this you keep on doing till all the M examples. So what you're doing is you're taking two steps, which is first step is called the expectation step, where you compare with the mean value and add the value into that particular class. And second step is the maximization. You compute the new mean value. So these two step algorithm is there. After reading M examples, so A, B, and C will adjust themselves with the new mean values and which represent the actual learned attributes. So new mean value and their deviation is based on the elements that you have added. So that represents a learned model. So there are two steps: expectation, where you are comparing in a particular class. So maximizing likelihood, you add into that class. Then the maximization step, where you compute the new mean value. So in this way, your algorithm works. Now here, as I told you that there is mean value, but in actual Gaussian, we know that we need to have a standard deviation as well. So for each class, you have a particular its own standard deviation. Let's say this belongs to C1. For another particular class, so there is another way, that is C2. And there could be another class having different mean and sigma. So that is C3. So after that, you learn the mixture of Gaussians. So here I have taken a very simple example by comparing the marks. But actually, in real life, you have not only one attribute, but you are comparing with the n attributes. So all those n attributes, then you are comparing the Euclidean distance. Here I was just comparing the, let's say 60 marks with one value. But in actual, there will be attribute 1, 2, 3. You are comparing n attribute with the n Gaussian values. So in that way, you are comparing not single value, numeric value, but the n attributes. And then you are deciding that, so in which class it belongs. So E step is similar. We do normally the by calculating probability by maximizing a likelihood. And M step is then again readjusting your the model by calculating new mu value and the sigma values. So E step computed the expected value from the hidden indicator just by comparing, and M step finds a new value of the parameter, so that maximizes the log likelihood. So, so EM increases the log likelihood of data at each iteration. So once you start working with the sum data and you keep on going with the M examples, so EM can raise a local maxima in likelihood. Why local maxima? Because our mu or the M step modifies based on the order of examples. We cannot guarantee the global optimal values. So EM is again a greedy algorithm. So greedy step is this, when we are comparing and adding into a particular value, and then we are adjusting the new mean value. So here we are taking a greedy step. So this is always a local maxima that we will reach. So now we will